1, 2. Good morning, everybody. Are you making your way? Is there anybody else there? Crystal? No, okay. So we just want to welcome everybody today. Thank you for taking time to come and see what we're going to about. Thank you to our vendors, Nedbank, it's Monique, there's Ria from Paxson, Alazana from Standard Bank, and of course the Meraki team. Forgive me, there's one about the lady with SA Holdings. But to you that came out today to come and hear what everything, things that we are doing, I just want to say that Eleanor on my left, my name is Charlene, so I'm also from the Meraki team, and then you'll find the rest of the team around us. So we want to give out a prize. Are you ready? Who like prizes? Lovely. Let's see. How are we going to do this? Maybe. Okay, who's the eldest in the room? Who do you think is the eldest? Anybody from 60? Are you the eldest, sir? Are you the eldest? Who says that gentleman's the eldest and the lady here? Are you the eldest? No? 62? 77? Wow! Good. And the gentleman? 62. Okay, so let's give a hand to the lady coming to the class. Thank you. We can definitely learn from our seniors. Is that a yes or a no? Lovely. Doesn't she look good? Give a hand, everybody. Thank you so much. Okay, so the next prize, we got our last prize quickly. Let's see. I'm just thinking of a question quickly. The first hand up is going to be. So, what color is Meraki's team? Yes. Yes, sir. Say again. So, is that okay? Yay! Give me my hand, everybody. Thank you. Carmen, over to you. Put your hand together for Carmen, everybody.
Good morning, everybody, and thanks again for joining us today. We really do hope that you will get some value out of today's session. And what we really want to look at today is how financial planning can help us reach our property goals, right? I will be covering credit rating, what we look at as rental agents when we do an somebody's looking to rent. The banks will be giving some insight, quick snippets on what they look at when they are doing credit rating. And then later we've got Lucina Ishmael of my attorneys. She will be telling us what other costs are involved when purchasing, what other costs you need to look out for. And she will also be discussing the plus housing subsidy and what the criteria is to qualify, etc. Right? So today we're all looking at how to make our dreams a reality and financial planning in reaching our property goals. So whether your property goals is to rent or whether your property goals is to buy, whatever season you are in, we are going to look at how we can help you get there. And maybe for the season you need to rent and build towards buying if you're not yet ready to buy, but it's all about planning, right? And working towards reaching that property goals. So what I'm going to start with, and the comments we often get out there from prospective tenants is, why are you doing such a thorough application? We're not buying the house, we're only going to rent, right? But as estate agents, we've got an obligation to make sure that the landlord is entrusting he or she is entrusting us with the property. Our responsibility is to make sure that we get a qualified tenant, that we secure a qualified tenant for the property, and make sure that the asset of the landlord is being looked after. And it's being looked after by making sure that his rental payments are coming in on time and accurately, but also to make sure the property is maintained well, and then also to make sure that once that lease period comes to an end, the most likely thing is that the tenant will be able to vacate at the end of the lease period, right? So we do have a very strict vetting process, and we believe that is the first part of debt control, because landlords often ask us, do we offer guarantees for it? We can't. What do we do if the tenant doesn't pay? But we believe it starts right at the beginning with the credit vetting to make sure that the tenant can indeed afford to enter into this lease agreement. Okay. So the first check that we look at is affordability, right? So with our affordability check, the first thing we look at what the rent amount is. So is 1/3 of your gross income going to be able to cover the rent amount? So 1/3 of your gross income needs to at least equal the monthly installment of the rent. So that's the first check we will look at. That's known as an affordability check. The second part on affordability is you'll see, even though you pass the first check, which is 1/3 of your gross income can cover the installment, but do you have enough net surplus income to cover that installment? Now, when we talk about net surplus income, we're starting with gross income, right? So gross income is your cost to company. We look at gross income, then we look at all the salary deductions. Now, some companies just have straight pay as you earn and UIF, and then you get your net salary. However, there could be other salary deductions if there's fringe benefits, if you've got travel allowance. There's numerous things that can be added onto your salary deductions. So we have to look at salary deductions, then we get your net salary. So now your net salary, that is the amount that's paid into your bank account every month, right? So now we look at the amount that's paid into your bank account, and now we need to check what are what we call committed expenses. Now, committed expenses are those debit orders that come off that you can't get away from. Sometimes the debit order comes off before your salary even gets into your bank account. I don't know how the banks do that. But those are called committed expenses. Now, once the committed expenses come off, now we need to look at what we call living expenses. Because even after those debit orders come off, we need to eat, we need to travel, we need to pay school fees. There's a list of other things that we look at as living expenses, and that we will normally get off your bank statements as well. And then that net amount says to us, this is your net surplus income. So does that net surplus income, number one, cover the monthly rent amount? Also, is there a little bit of a buffer for utilities, for any maintenance that may creep up, for any other, so we will always add about 1,000 rand onto that as well, because we need to check, will you still be able to pay electricity, will you be able to pay the water and sewage, which are additional expenses on top of the basic rent amount. Okay, so that is our affordability checks. First one, 1/3 of gross income covers the rent amount. Second one, you've got enough net surplus income to cover the monthly rent and any utilities or added expenses. And the way we will normally check that is why we ask for your pay slip, because we need to see what your gross income is, what the salary deductions are, and what your net salary is. We also need to make sure, that's why we ask for 3 months bank statements. We need to make sure that the net salary on your pay slip is matching the amount that's coming into your bank account. And if it isn't, we need to be able to understand why, right? So we will look at that. If you are a fixed salary earner, it's pretty simple. If you are a commission earner, we most likely going to ask for 6 months bank statements, and now we will look at doing an average on your commission amount that's coming in, right? So that is affordability checks. Then we pull a credit report. Now the credit report that we use, we are linked to a company called TPN. It's known as Tenant Profile Network. So the Tenant Profile Network, when we do a credit report, there's 3 things that the TPN links to. So if you rented before by a private landlord or another agency that used TPN, your profile will show. It will show if you paid your rent on time, it will show if you paid your rent accurately, and it will show if there's any late payments as well, right? But only people who have been linked to the tenant profile network, which majority of agents are using these days, will be able to pick up that profile. Then this report also links us to Experian, and it links us to TransUnion. Okay? So from Experian and TransUnion, you'll be able to pick up all your retail accounts. We'll be able to see where you missed payments. We'll be able to see if you paid late. We'll be able to see if you've got any judgments or defaults. And we'll actually be able to see when you open the account, what your outstanding balance is, and what your monthly payment is. So we can pick up all of this from this credit report, linked to those 2 credit bureaus as well as to the tenant profile network. And then it also can show us your marital status. It will also verify your ID with Home Affairs. So one of the checks it does is to make sure that the ID is matching the person that we've actually met, to make sure that we do an ID verification. It will be able to tell us if you've got any properties registered. It pulls up the deeds registry as well. And it will also tell us if you've got any qualifications. So it tells us your educational status as well. So this thing is pretty deep, right? Yeah. So you have to tell us the truth, because if you don't, you're going to find out. Okay? It will tell us your number of dependents. It will tell us if you've been divorced, etc. Right? So even if you give us a name and surname, and it's not exactly as your ID document says it is, we'll get notified. Even if it's a spelling, even if you had a maiden surname and you've now got married, that's the first thing that the credit report will pick up and tell us the ID is not matching. It's linked directly to Home Affairs, right? So that is the credit report. I will go through what we look at on that credit report. So first thing, check IDs matching. And we do this credit report, even if there's only one person applying, we do it for anybody 80 years and older that will be residing in the premises. Because we find that sometimes the wife will only do the application on her name because the default credit is not showing on her ID, but it's showing on the husband's. So they keep the husband's details back. So with this, we say anybody 18 years and older that will be residing in the property, we do a credit report on everybody, right? Also, if it's linked to the tenant profile network, we'll be able to check if you've been evicted before, if you've terminated a lease early before, etc. So the things we look at on the report is, first thing, are there any defaults? Are there any judgments? Right? If you're under debt review, we'll get an immediate signal to say this customer is under debt review. Right? So the way we look at debt review and the way we look at judgments or defaults, you know, before COVID, we were pretty strict and said we would just chuck it out and not look at it. but many incomes were affected during the COVID period, and we have to take that into consideration. So we won't straight up kick out the review or default or judgments, but we will ask questions like, when did you go into arrears? We will be able to see it, but we still have to ask the questions if the information is matching. When did you go into debt review? Why did you go into debt review? Or why do you have a default? Why do you have a judgment? And what are you doing to fix it? Because life happens, people sometimes want to keep up with it. It could be retrenchment, it could have been loss of job. You know, we take those things into consideration. But at the end of the day, what responsibility are you taking to get back on track? Have you contacted your creditors? Are you trying to make payment arrangements? Do you have a plan to get out of this debt? And I must say, there are instances we've picked up where people are not aware. Maybe it's a cell phone account that was terminated, or they thought they terminated the account with the cell phone service provider, and it didn't, and it's maybe a recurring debt or an outstanding amount that's sitting there that the client perhaps wasn't aware of, and we bring it to the attention. If you're happy to sort that out, settle the debt, send us proof of payment, we can talk, right? So our credit vetting process is not computer generated, it's not AI generated, we don't work with algorithms like some of the banks. It's really human to human. So we will take that time, look into the application, and really ask these kind of questions. If the applicant is open with us and willing to provide us with that information, we could possibly still have a relationship with the landlord, with the tenant. The vetting we do, we will give our findings to the landlord, we will make the recommendation to the landlord, but at the end of the day, the landlord always makes the final decision. Okay. When we also look at the credit report, we will look at payment history. Because we always say that previous behavior normally dictates future behavior, right? So, but like I said, if you've got a valid explanation and you can show us you had a loss of income for a certain period, etc., or there was a life-changing event that caused you to go into that arrears, we can look at what to do and if we can enter into the agreement now, or if you need to work on a few things and rather apply at a later stage. Okay. So that is what we look at in terms of the credit reports. Red flags that we would pick up. The minute I see something like longer, faster, any of those short-term payday loans is a big red flag. Because that tells us you can't keep up with your monthly commitments and you are depending on the short-term loan to get you through the month. So that is a red flag and will normally be picked up. If you are not currently renting, but you're sitting with an overdraft, and you've maybe been staying at home, you've been paying mommy board or daddy board, which is a very big gap from what the actual rental amount is. If you're already living in an overdraft, it says you don't actually have the net surplus income to cover the rental where you are going, right? When you do apply for a property, you will look at where you've rented previously and what you have paid towards rent or what you have paid towards a bond perhaps previously. And if that amount is very close to what the rental amount is, then we can see affordability. So, like I said, we always look at that. And then also, another thing we can see on the credit report is how many credit inquiries you've done over the last 12 months. So we will check if you've got more than 6 inquiries you've done over the last month. I can see you've made an application for direct access. You've made an application by AXA. You've made an application for a credit card. You've made an application for a car. Then it says to me that you are also applying for a lot of debt. So we need to be aware and look ahead to see, is that all that loans that you've done in these last 12 months, is it going to catch up with you during the lease period, right? So we really need to take that into account as well. So limit the inquiries you allow people to make on your credit profile. Because the minute someone makes an inquiry on your credit profile, it shows up. And then we can see it, and it doesn't look good if you've got a whole list of inquiries on your profile. Okay. So those are some of the main things that we look at in terms of affordability, in terms of your credit profile, right? Now, once we've passed those two stages, we now need to do some reference checks, right? So first thing is, we'll match our payslip to the bank statement. Then we'll also look at what's on the credit report and match that up to the bank statement. We'll also check things on your bank statement and how you are managing your finances as well. So be careful what you use your card to swipe with, because everything shows up on your bank account if you're using your card to make that transaction, right? And those are things we look at as well. So now we will do some checks. So we will check the marital status, and if the application isn't joint, find out why. Then we will do what we call an employer reference check. So even though you've given us the pay slip, even though we can see that money coming into your bank account, we still make what we call an employer reference check. We will give them a call and just to confirm employment, confirm if your status is as you said it is. If you say you're working there for 8 years, we just need to connect. Of course, the longer you are at a specific company, it does show more stability, right? So that is a plus. Then we will do what we call a previous landlord check. So we will phone your previous landlord and we will find out, did you pay on time? Did you look after the property? Did you give the proper notice to inform them that you will not be renewing the lease or terminating the lease? And also, will your full deposit be returned, or do they envisage any deductions from the deposit, right? Those are the kind of questions you will find from the previous landlord. If you don't have a previous landlord check, that does make your scoring a little bit lower, because now we're not sure of what kind of tenant you could be. So that does bring the scoring down a little. And then we will also do what we call a personal reference check. So we will contact the name that you put on the form, whether it's a friend or family member, just to sort of contact them and get an idea of characteristics. And of course, you're always going to give the one that you know is going to give you the best review. But let me tell you, we've had people that didn't, don't give your mother those details, please. We will get the whole full story. Okay, so those are the reference checks that we do. And I just want to check quickly what else we look at in terms of scoring. So things that we look at in terms of scoring. I just want to open up this quickly. Okay, so the credit check, we will see poor, good, or excellent. So if it's poor, you get a 0. If it's good, you get a 1. And if it's excellent, you'll get a 2, for example. We'll check your landlord reference check. So no landlord reference check puts you at a -1, poor 0, good 1, excellent 2. Then we will look at the period you are at your current residence. we'll also rate that less than a year, 0, between a year and 5 years, 1, more than 5 years, 2. Your personal reference will also have a rating, your employment check. Then we look at income and affordability, we will score at that. We will look at your bank balance, right? Are you carrying over funds every month? And if you've got an overdraft facility, are you using it all up? What we will also look at, you can, if you've got credit cards, we will look at what percentage of that credit card is actually being used. So are you using the full 100% and maxing out the credit card every month? Or do you have a credit card that still has a healthy availability balance, right? Then we will look at bank account. Do you have a savings account? Are you saving every month? And do you have any investments? And you know, this might all sound like, oh my word, how am I ever going to rent a property? It sounds quite strict, but there are ways around it, right? So it's very important to, number one, be aware of what your credit status is. Everybody gets a free annual credit report where you can go in and check what your credit rating is. So take the responsibility and do that free credit report and see what comes up, right? See what you can work on. Then you need to look at your own income and expenses and see what is my net surplus income at the end of the month. So if your net surplus income is 8,000 Rand, don't go look for a property of 8,000 Rand per month. Look for a property of 6,000 or 6,500, so that you've still got a bit of a gap for any ad-hoc expenses, for life happening, for the children that need to go to the doctor, or an excursion happening at school, or any additional funds that you may need, right? Keep a little bit of a gap open for those kind of things that may be happening. And if you've had a default on your account, or you've gone under debt review, or you know you've got those things, work out a plan on how you're going to settle it. Work out a plan with your creditors and take that responsibility of making that. A lot of people went under debt review, which I'm sure they didn't need to. I believe that there was a lot of people that perhaps just went for counseling, or they just went to get more information, and they were advised not to do consolidation, but rather for debt review. But the unfortunate thing is that once you're under debt review, you have to wait until all your credit is paid up, and then you need to get a debt clearance certificate before you can apply for any further credit. And a lease agreement is not considered a credit agreement where that is concerned, but you do need to understand the hesitancy of the landlord when they see debt review, right? But like I said, if we can motivate it, if we can find out the history behind it, and we can show the landlord we've done something to get back on track, then we are happy to consider that, right? But like I said, the landlord always has the final say. Okay. So that is, and then also deposit. Know before going to view a property what the deposit requirements are. Don't visit the property, do the application. Once the lease agreement is sent, then you realize I can't actually afford the deposit plus the first month's rent. So always when you're looking at ads for rentals, find out from the agent or the landlord what are the deposit requirements. So normally, like for instance, if I use us as an example, we would say a minimum of 1.5 months deposit, which means 1.5 times the rental amount. But if we look at your credit scoring, and some of those credit scorings come down very low, instead of declining your application, we may just increase the deposit, because just to mitigate the financial risk for the landlord, right? So you've got a poor payment history, you can see you've got payment plans, you're sticking to those payment plans, you've got affordability, but there's still a little bit of risk for the landlord because of that marking on your credit profile. Then we will say, okay, instead of 1.5 months deposit, let's make it 2 months deposit, right? With these utilities that are billed monthly and they aren't meters for those utilities, we will also ask for 2 months deposit. Because yes, you can be paying your rental time, but if you're not paying the utilities, that sometimes because it puts the landlord's credit profile at risk for the city of Cape Town, right? If there's pets, we will normally ask for an additional deposit as well, because normally with pets there is more wear and tear on the property, there's more chances of fumigation that needs to be taken done at the end of the lease period, etc. So, often you might think, why are the deposits so high? But the deposits is merely just to first secure the landlord's rental if there's any rent risk for that month. And then two, if there are any damages to the property, we need to make sure we are able to cover that as well at the end of the lease term. Okay. Everybody's still good? Yes. Okay. So that is the financial aspects around renting the property. Like I say, make sure that your budget is worked out so that you see you can actually afford that monthly rent. And then also make sure you check your credit report yourself. And I don't think it will show up on your profile, so there isn't a risk for that. And then also just make sure that you are then working on getting yourself to the place where your credit scoring will improve and that you also have the sufficient funds available to pay first month's rent and the deposit. Make sure though, when you're dealing with and paying a deposit, and so with a reputable agency or the landlord needs to assure that their money is being invested in an interest-bearing account until you move out and at the end of your tenancy. Okay, so that is what I have to say about credit vetting. So whether you're looking to rent or whether you're a landlord that wants to secure a tenant, those are things we need to look at. And then just one thing on foreign applications. The reason that some landlords are hesitant to go with foreign credit applications is because if we do a tenant, a credit report, we can't pick up history of a foreigner if they haven't incurred debt in South Africa. So it makes it difficult for us to see if there's any credit history. So what we will often do, we will ask that person, it depends how long they're in South Africa, is that they get the credit report from wherever they are and send us a copy of that, and we will do one on top of that. So that is mostly the hesitancy around foreign applications because we can't see payment history on our credit bureaus. Okay, so that is from me on a credit rating side from the renting perspective. Are there any questions?
Sorry, do traffic fines count as
Traffic fines. If it's showing on your, I don't think it pulls through to the credit profile unless it's reached some stage perhaps it could show as a judgment. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the banks now. I've covered the landlord part, or I've covered the credit rating around renting. And I just want to ask the banks, they're all sending a representative. We're all going to give them a chance to, number one, answer a question, and number two, tell us what their current service offerings are that is unique to their brand. So you can go on stage. introduce yourself from what bank you are, answer my question, and then say tell the people what your specific offering is at the moment. So we're going to start with you, Damien. Damien, if there was one thing you wish people knew before they applied for a home loan, what would it be?
The transfer costs and returning costs that's involved. We get a lot of customers that come to us and they say, okay, but they're not aware about the returning costs that's involved in purchasing property. So that would be one of the Oh, okay, so yeah, so this is why I'm basically from FEB and then yeah. And okay, so what FEBs have to offer for our customers that come to FEB is at the moment we do offer 50% discount on the bond registration fees. We buy an HE with FEB. If you go to one of the bond registrators, then unfortunately that does not apply. So that's what we offer from our side. Just one of the main perks.
Thank you. So that is Damien of First National Bank. Nicole, so it's a good thing that Damien brought that up. Musina will be sharing with us a bit later on transfer costs and what costs to look out for. Nicole, tell us about how SA Home Loans can support the government workers, what you have to offer.
Hello everybody, I'm Nicole. So, SA Home Loans is perceived as a small fish in the pond. And we don't often get recognized against the bigger banks, but we do work very differently to the bigger banks, especially when it comes to government employees as well as self-employed clients. Government employees, what happens there is automatically you get a minus 1% on your interest rate because your bond deduction will come from your payslip. So your interest rate is determined by your credit score and things that has previously been discussed. But is definitely an advantage there because you also get the housing subsidy.
Thank you, Nicole is Elva. So if you're a government employee, so just to know, if you are applying for a bond through Capitec, so Capitec is because Capitec is offering home loans now as well, but the application is going to be through SA Home Loans.
If I can check it out, Capitec come to me. Even Capitec applications going to go to guys in Durban. But I ain't say owners like that. All those things and X and movies on my like. So I'm very pleased. This is one information and some TVs in the envelope. So this is
So if both spouses are married, they both get subsidy.
both spouses get the subsidy, we use both. So if hypothetically the subsidy is 2,000 rand, we'll use 4,000 rand. But the bond deduction will only come for one person. Yeah.
Maybe some people,
Yes, yeah. So, what's how people do it? We work a little bit differently in the sense where I would personally go through the financials, the expenses that the business pays for in your personal capacity. My understanding is with my favorite topics that an algorithm was done. So I'm not
understand.
okay. Well,
You guys
so basically, I'm able to look at it when I'm able to hear that the system is not going to spool out, or the system would hypothetically spool out if you put a vehicle finance, but I will then be able to, a personal vehicle finance, right? I will then be able to see on your business financial system it's paying for the car. So So I take a more physical expense and it will make the loan more.
Thank you, Nicole. Can we just give all the banks a chance to say the bit, and we'll do the questions afterwards? Okay. So, Monique, tell us the importance of once that home loan is approved, that there shouldn't be any ad hoc spending after that. Just explain to everybody how important that is and how the banks look at that.
Good morning, everybody. It's lekker to see such mooi gezichten so early in the morning. I just have a question for Carmen before our proceeding. You're referring to the ad hoc after the bond is approved before registration.
There can be other children like
Buy
furniture, buy address.
Okay. So I'm going to make an example, just so that we can have a better understanding. So Carmen's question was, if you are approved for a bond, they obviously look at how much you can afford. And after your bond has been assessed, there is a little bit of surplus. I'm going to make an example. You qualify for a home loan where the installment is 11,000 rand. Now take note that your net surplus is 15,000 rand. So the bond installment is 11, which means you have 4,000 left. After your installment, you get your final quotation, you accept for the bank, this is going to be your installment. That is agreed upon. So usually it takes up to 3 months, to register your property before you can get your keys and move into your property income, you know. So now you decide a month after you have accepted your quotation, you saw this white car that you want to buy, right? But the installment is, so now your bond has technically already been accepted at the bond of which you have been assessed on, okay? But they have been registered yet. So now your vehicle installment is 4,500. Thank you. You've been approved by the dealership or the I don't know what kind of car that is at BMW. Now you get to the bond registration attorneys. Now take note, the transfer attorney is the attorney appointed by the estate agency. Or the sale, okay? And the bond registration attorney is appointed by the bank. You don't sign any documents by the bank when you accept your quotation. You sign at the bond documents at the registering attorneys. Those are the attorneys that will register you at the deeds office before you go and get your keys. At any point in time, they can go back and run a check to see that you have purchased the vehicle. It does not mean that you are accepted by the bond and approved by the bank that you can go and purchase a bond. You have to wait until your bond has been registered. Yes. So sometimes, I'm not sure if anyone else is going to, you mentioned the 105%. 110. Okay, Standard Bank offers 110%, you will cover that. We do cover, that's first time buyers offer, which means that your fees are attached to the 100% that you apply for your bond. But 108%, which my colleague is going to unpack. So you don't qualify for the extra 5 or 8% because there is a criteria for that. You don't qualify for that extra percent because your bureau exposure is not that good. So now you are worried because you need your fees of which ESI, MMI, Musina is going to cover. So now you're worried because where am I going to get the money from? I don't have a family member that can support me. I don't have a rich auntie or uncle that can give me a 60,000 rand to cover my attorneys. But I'm getting married in December, I want to get into my house. Right? So now you have that 4,000 rand surplus. Okay? But you need a 60,000 rand. It is possible upon informing your bond consultant and speaking with your bond, to say that look, I'm sure the 60,000 is possible that I can go and make a loan for the funds. Because if you don't qualify for the 105%, you don't have a rich family member that's going to, you're never going to get into your property. The only thing that is important here is that you have sufficient surplus. That is why you need to have constant communication with your ordinance consultant. You need to be within your affordability bracket. After you go and after your bond is registered, you can put yourself at a risk to go and purchase that vehicle, because do know that we don't know how our economy is going to be in 5 years' time, in 2 years' time. The interest rate might go up. From personal experience, in 2 years, my bond has gone up by 50,000 rand. So those are also the things that you need to consider going forward when purchasing the property. That is why Carmen said they always add an extra 1,000 rand for expenses going forward after the rental, after purchasing the property. I am Monique from Meraki. That is in the corner. I'm sure there will be a time for engagement. You're more than welcome to come and speak to me. Thank you.
Thank you, Monique. So yeah, and a lot of people, once they got the bond secured, they're so happy, so they run off and go buy brand new furniture. Don't do that either. Wait until the property is registered, because you don't want to wait a couple of days or a week or two before registration and the bond get pulled back. It's not a nice thing. Okay, so Chanel, share with us the importance of declaring your marital status when doing a bond application. Because we've had some people that try to hide their husbands away.
Everybody, I'm Chanel from Standard Bank, and this is very important because we also have quite a bit of those with the clients saying that they are married traditional Muslim rights. They forget that the court actually married real property, so they don't understand. They say they're married and they're natural, but actually it's real property, so only the wife applies in their name. Comes to the deeds office, everything goes through, the service is signed, everything, and gets to the deeds office, and then you check that file. Because it picks up that we're actually married still deed. We also have a lot of big clients who married in other countries. And if they don't claim, or they just assume because they're married in this country that it's seen as traditional or ANC. Some countries is not like that. So we look at it that they are actually married COP, and they need to add a wife. Most of the time it's the wife that we need to add because it's legally at the deeds office. So it's very important to declare if you are married or not. Some people come in and say, I am going through a divorce, but I'm going to buy. I don't want to do that because if you're married still, you want to have to have that divorce decree. Stand by the magistrate court to say you are no longer need to do this. Oh, if you guys didn't know that Standard Bank is a market leadership. And we are if you are owners, anybody can tell me we are owners who are Standard Bank, because we've always been the market leaders. Because we intuitively we have that human intervention. So our offering, especially the second line, we offer up to 180 first-time home buyers. We also have the offering where if, say I was married and but I had our own property. I'm married, but my husband is a first-time home buyer. So they qualify for first-time home buyer. So at least one of them used to be a first-time home buyer. And I always say, and you will know that we can say this, bold and proud, that we will never lose a deal to another bank on an interest rate. So if their bank offers you, oh, we can say that. They say we can say that. We will never lose a deal on interest rate to another bank. So, yes. Okay. So the thing is, their bank is so we can offer you come to bank, I will beat the bank. I go to the client.
All you have to do is come to Meraki. Okay, so we are direct leaders with all of the banks here today. So So when we do applications, we go directly to them. We don't go through a call center. We don't go through any other loops. We have direct contact with these people, and these are the consultants that are taking the application directly from us. So if we need to motivate or anything like that, we've got direct relationships with them, which is brilliant. So just explain about a conditional grant, because sometimes the client gets approval, they get all excited, but they're not reading the fine print there that says it's a conditional grant. So maybe give an example of a conditional grant and what the clients will do about it.
Good morning. I am from Elva. With regards to conditional grants or concessions, there are two types that you get. One is at approval in principle stage, and that is where a client will approve for a certain amount, but it's subject to the valuation of the property. Right? So let's say you've been approved for R1 million, which is 100% loan, and the condition is that the value of that property must come in at R1 million. Then you're going to get R1 million. If, however, the property comes in less, then the bank is either going to offer you less, which is say 900,000 rand, but then you as a client need to determine are you going to purchase a property at the R1 million. Now you want to get a deposit of 100,000, or is the seller going to drop to the value of the property, which is 900,000. That is the one aspect. The other aspect of conditional concessions is that the bank, we all fighting for clients, right? So we're going to come with a carrot and say, if you bring your account over to us, we are going to give you an additional 0.25% or 0.5% if you bring your whole portfolio over to Excel or to any other bank. And then the concession is, the condition is that you must open a check account and have the debit or pay from that check account and service the home loan taken over there. And then you will get that additional 0.25%. And that must be for the term of the loan, or until you sell that property. And so those are the two conditions. And then just to add on to what we offer, as Deb said, is that we are the only bank that offers future rental income. So I'm not sure there are any investors here, but in terms of the future rental income is that if a client owns one property and they want to purchase from the second property onwards, we will use the rental that that property can generate, or the things of rental that that property can generate. We also work with the same network that they are working with, the agency, which is the TPN, the Tenant Profile Network, and they look at the good standing of the property, the likelihood of the tenants defaulting in that area, and then we will then determine what the rental amount is that can be generated from that property. But also just bear in mind that if you are purchasing a property for student accommodation, we're not going to look at the room that you are renting out. We're looking at the property as well. With a 3-bedroom property, with a garage, you can get 8,000 rand. But if you're renting it out to students, you get 4,000 rand a room. So you get 12,000. We do not look at that. We look at the TPN report. The TPN report is what we will use as the benchmark. So a client can say, no, but I can get 12,000, but we will only use 8,000. And we add that into your affordability without even receiving that rental. Thank you.
And also, with Standard Bank, especially under a lot of applications in the name of entities, self-employed people wanting to purchase. So what it means, if you want to afford, we look at the business. So what we'll do is we'll condition to say that we have for the business to stay sure that if you pay with the bill on the condition that the order is taken from the business account. And that you have to stay sure that you as the owner of the business, you will sign surety, but you can, and the business, even though you are applying in the personal capacity.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. Does anybody have any questions? Okay, Sergio.
On what she said, say you are in government work and you have a business, and and you want to apply for a home loan, obviously with the subsidies, does the business include it in your credit check or qualification? So this is the thing.
Hi, good morning. Say you are a employee of our government and the business. In applying for our loan, you get your subsidy and all that from government. And the first time owner subsidy as well. When applying, do they take into consideration your business as well?
You can, so that's entirely up to you. If you only want to use your salary, or if you want, because you want to apply for higher loan amount, you can take the business into account and what income is derived from the business. And especially when it's a sole proprietor, a lot of people don't know this. If it's a sole proprietor, we do not need business financials. You only need an income statement from your accountant. So it becomes easier when you're a sole proprietor because that money that the business makes is actually your money. And the expenses that the business, that's on the expenses, is actually your expenses. So we use that income. And so it's easier as a sole proprietor, but government wants to do it just for your business.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions? No questions.
Just with regards to it's just based on, because
The future rental is only the rental that will take the rental into consideration for the property only. But the client, let's say the client has got another property that is already receiving rental, we will take that income also into consideration. So if the client is a full-time employee, he gets a salary, he gets the rental from his existing property, and he wants to buy his third property or second property, we look at that rental. So it's three income streams.
okay, so just some of the existing people that's basically this part of that's existing already.
Yes.
The full rate, the full rate,
What about the percentage is 80%? So you get paid down the rent, we use 8,000.
Thank you.
Sorry, another question. Do you qualify for FLISC when you have your business?
It depends on your drawings from the business. So if your drawings is less than 29,000, then you can qualify for this. Yes.
And how long?
Sorry, how affordable housing increase, sorry, but yes.
And the bank statements, how many months do they check? Is it 12 months, 6 months? Okay, so in 6 months I get just on the work.
From the business side.
From the business side.
Well, you have to look at it like this. What are you doing to salary from the business? People have to take songs. So we will take one, even ask for an isolated form to verify. So your income.
I don't always know.
It's like when you need money. Okay. So it depends. So if the business pays for any of your expenses, but you don't actually take money for yourself as a salary, we will only use for the business pays for that expense as an income for you if you want to use that.
Okay. So you can apply.
You can profit, but as long as it's within the threshold of your income. Yeah.
With being government employee as well together.
So you want to
Yes,
access
Combined.
Yes.
was done really anyway. We can't live out. Okay. You see us in a crowd just with the next station.
But what we do is how I try and make deals with those clients. Our system is designed to tell me exactly how much to qualify for this. So when I submit the application, I'm doing income expenses, and I say, no names, will say, custom qualifies for 40,000 for this. So I will decline the first, I will move this upfront. I will proceed with the application. Then the system will tell me, yeah, you're later to do. If not, the decline is going to affordability or something. Then what I will use for the application and use this to make the system already telling what to qualify as a deposit. Then I will ensure if you accept it, to allocate that bill to the first or the third on our panel. So that sort out the first one. And yes, that way we do that. We've got first consultants.
Any other? Okay.
There are also some that you can go to and have a face-to-face consultation on a phone. So now when you go to CCFM, we have to on the phone. And not always you call your question answer. So it's a net back. And
They all here today. You can go speak to them face to face and then set up a consultation with you.
So just ask a question there with regards to FMB, so at the branches, they know where these consultants allocated to the different branches. So we go to the branch, they're supposed to call the consultant, which would be myself or me, and I come to you if you need to face to face. But if the branch have these Teams calls, whatever you want, you need a face to face.
So serious, come to us, we will connect you with any of these banks. Okay. We can connect you with any of these green, blue, red, or orange. With the connection, speak to us. Okay, any other questions? Okay, so it's my time to ask questions. Yeah, we're gonna. Okay. Who can tell me what makes Nedbank different to all the other banks? Sure. What do you need, she?
Energy.
Energy. And you got a green top on, so you're gonna need the green ties for that.
You know, energy matches energy.
Yes. Okay. What did he say? I want to say that stood out for you. You got that?
Making your own application with first.
He said what stood out for you. Okay. We're going to give it to her. Take a pic. Please. Okay, well, that was with pics. What did Access say they do that no other bank does? Go with the guy there. I feel sorry it wasn't there. Georgia. Here we go, young lady. Beautiful. Okay. Okay. Starting at the young age, Okay. And what is FNB going to offer you that no other bank can offer you? 50%. 50%. FNB. Yes, Devin. Okay, and then lastly, Standard Bank. Cindy Joe. 108%. Yay! Okay, so that is it for our first session. Any question, guys? We good? Let's give a round of applause to the guys that have come on board. Thank you so much, everybody. Okay, so now we're moving on to our second session. I'm going to introduce Musina Ishmael from MI Attorneys. Musina is an attorney, notary, and conveyancer. Musina handles a lot of our transfers as well, and she's going to share with you on transfer costs and the first housing subsidy.
Hi, good morning everyone. As alternate is wat ons geld praat. And I'm obviously not making that really different today. Thank you, Carmen, for the introduction, and thank you for taking time aside this morning to discuss the costs relating to buying a property. And if you think Carmen and the banks of Big Brother, then you really are the worst. I mean, we can trace you if we needed to. If you were missing, we could trace you, we could find out where you worked last, what your last address was. We do a whole of these verifications to check if you're married. So if you tell us you're not married, we will find out whether or not you're married. So yeah, we can see quite a lot of people often Big Brother of what needs to be seen when it comes to personal records. I also just wanted to add something with regards to debt counseling and debt review. Excuse me. When you apply with a debt counselor to just start the process, so even if you just submit an application to start that process, it will go on to your credit report. So it will trigger a debt review process. So even if you say to the debt counselor, oh, I'm just contemplating, I want to fill out an application form to do it, but you don't proceed with the next steps, the mere fact that you've actually applied to do it will trigger a debt review, and to have it removed, you actually need to make a court application to have it removed from your debt, from your credit report. And that's like a 3,000 to 4,000 rand court process, just to remove something that you didn't want in the first place. So just also be very careful, and if you're married in community of property, if your one spouse goes into debt review, maybe they didn't tell you, it will apply to the both of you because it is one joint estate. Alright. And we come across a lot of that, and unfortunately, it's very unfortunate when Carmen phones me and she tells me this couple wants to apply for a bond, but the husband or the wife has had a debt review. Unfortunately, it impacts the both of them. But anyway, I digress. I'm going to chat to you guys a little bit about the costs of buying. I've also added the costs of selling as well, because I think it's very important for sellers to know what costs they incur for selling a property. It's not just selling a property and then walking away with your gross proceeds. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. And then I'm also going to chat a little bit about what the buyer incurs. And then I'll touch on FLISP a little bit, and I read some of the questions, so we'll touch on that as well. And then after the session, you guys are welcome to ask questions also. So when it comes to selling your property, there are certain costs that the seller also incurs for selling their property. Okay? From whether it is rates clearance, so normally when it comes to rates clearance, the rates needs to be cleared for the duration of the transfer process. Transfer process normally takes a maximum period of about 6 to 8 weeks to complete. That is a 2-month process that you're looking at. And the rates clearance with whatever municipality that is, whether it's the City of Cape Town, City of Johannesburg, it gets cleared for a period of 60 days for the duration of the transfer, right? When we are applying for the rates clearance with the City of Cape Town, they issue us with a certificate, and they will normally charge you for any unbilled charges that are currently running on your account. So perhaps your bills generated on the 15th of each month, and we apply on the 7th, they will charge us for that charges that are currently still running. Then if you owe any arrears on your account, they will also bill on the arrears, and then they will also bill you a 2-month advance on your rates clearance as well. And that 2-month advance is calculated on your arrears. So if, for example, your municipal bill is currently sitting at 150,000 rand, and I've had clients like this, and the utilities and services are still working, and it's sitting at 150,000 rand, normally the 2-month advance will be calculated on the average of that 150,000 rand, which is a lot, because your monthly bill might only just be 1,500 rand per month, but they calculate it on the average of whatever your arrears is. Once transfer goes through, and if transfer is shorter than a 2-month period, because remember they've billed you for 2 months advance, if we transfer the property shorter than 2 months, the City of Cape Town will normally issue a refund, and then they issue it to us, and then we will pay that over to you once transfer is complete. Okay. Then also the seller has to pay for certificates of compliance, so your water, your electrical. If you've got electric fencing on your property, you need to have that as well. If you've got any wooden components on your property, you need to have a metal or a pest-free inspection certificate issued as well. And then also just your electrical compliance, which certifies that the electrical components of the property are in compliance with occupational and health and safety standards. And if you're in Cape Town specifically, a water certificate is compulsory. So if you sell a property in Joburg, it might not be compulsory there, but for the City of Cape Town, if you sell within our area of the Western Cape, you do need a water compliance certificate, and that certifies that the plumbing components in your property is compliant. Then you also have to cover the estate agent's commission. Right? So that is a percentage that gets deducted off the proceeds of your sale. So if you're selling for 1.5 million and the commission is 7%, 7.5, that percentage also gets deducted off. And before we pay you, we pay up to the agent, and you get what is left on the proceeds of that sale. If you've got a bond on your property, when you've sold that property, we also need to cancel that bond, and we need to settle whatever is owing under that bond. So normally as part of the transfer process, we will ask you for your loan account number, because on the deeds office records, we can pick up whether or not there's a bond on your property, and then we will ask you for your Standard Bank and Net Bank app. So whatever bank you work with, we'll ask for that loan account number, and then we will place the bond under cancellation for you. Once we've placed it under cancellation, the bank will then issue us with a figure for settlement, right? And we then guarantee that amount against what you're selling the property for. So let's say, for example, you're selling for 1.5 million rand, and you owe the bank 500,000 rand plus interest, then we will basically guarantee to the bank that on transfer we will settle 500,000 rand plus the interest that's currently lying. Then also for cancelling your bond, the bank appoints a bond cancellation attorney. So that is a separate attorney that gets appointed, and they will basically ensure that the bond on your property gets cancelled and that it gets registered in the deeds office. Normally in that circumstance, you also have to pay a separate attorney fee, and that's for the seller. So that's a cancellation attorney that normally ranges about up to 6,000, 6,500 rand just to cancel a bond, right? Excuse me, it is often the case that some people will tell me, no, we squared up the bond, or we paid up the bond a couple of years ago, but that bond will remain on your ID number in the deeds office unless an attorney cancels that bond. So even if your bond's on a null balance and an attorney has not been instructed to cancel that bond, the bond will stay there until it's actually instructed to an attorney. So when you settle your bonds, you need to tell the bank, can you please instruct an attorney to cancel the bond, because it actually needs to go through a deeds office process to be removed of your report. Okay, and unfortunately you have to pay that 6,000 rand out of pocket if you're not selling the property. You then have to settle it out of pocket. Then also, any conveyancing costs for attendances that we need to attend to during the process. So let's say, for example, your transfer is received by our office and you are the seller, and when we normally, before we start the transfer process, we will do various checks against you. So we'll check your ID number, we'll check if you own anything else in the deeds office, we'll check if there's bonds on the property, how many other bonds you might have, we'll check if you're married, what's your marital status in the deeds office. If you've got an antenuptial or prenup contract, we'll check that and you can see. And so if there's any errors relating to your ownership, so let's say for example your deed, your title deed, your name is spelled incorrectly. The deeds office needs to know that even though your name is spelled incorrectly, it is still you as the owner transferring the property. So we need to then submit additional applications with your transfer to the deeds office to rectify any errors of your ownership. And the deeds office charges us a fee for doing that. And the conveyancer will also charge you a fee because normally it's applications and affidavits that need to get drafted by our office, and then we will then submit that off with the transfer to the deeds office. Then also you might be in that unfortunate circumstance where your property has gone into foreclosure. So what that means is that you've ran into arrears on your bond and the bank has attached the property, and at a later date they will auction it off to basically recoup what they've lost under that bond, right? So normally it happens that you might have contacted Meraki before the property went on auction, and but the bank has already attached the property, so they've already got their court order, they've attached the property. They note that attachment against your ID number and against the property in the deeds office. So even if you try to sell the property, we would still pick it up that at some point the bank had attached the property. Okay, and what that means is that there's an additional cost that we then have to pay to the sheriff and to another attorney. It's normally the bond cancellation attorney, but sometimes it's also the attorney of the bank appointed to attach your property, right? Then that attorney will also charge another 2,500 rand just to remove that attachment against your property. So these are all the costs that are involved. And normally when Carmen or any member of Meraki or any other agency sells a property, the sellers always want to know what they can walk away with. Because obviously you are commencing on the next journey of your life, so you're either going to go there, you're going to go buy another property, and you need to know what you can walk away with. It's very difficult for us to estimate without some kind of figures from you. So you will be the one that says, on my loan account statement, there's an additional, there's 600,000 rand outstanding. Then we can already estimate more than this how much money you're going to walk away with at the end of the transfer. It's not always spot on, but at least we can give you an idea, and at least you can make your plans going forward. Because what happens is the interest on that bond will continue to run until the bond is cancelled and the property is transferred into the buyer's name. So even if you have 600,000 rand outstanding, it might not be 600,000 rand at the time the property transfers into the name of the buyer. So that's it for the seller's costs. When it comes to the buyer, the buyer must pay the purchase price of the property, and they also pay all the costs associated with buying that thing. So when you go to a shop, you obviously buy something and you pay the purchase price of buying that thing, and you pay the VAT and whatever taxes you pay. So in the circumstance, it's the same thing. You pay when you buy the property and you pay for all the associated costs. If you're taking a bond out with any of the major banks, you will know that there will be 2 attorneys appointed to attend to the transfer of the property. So the first one is the transferring attorney. That would be the attorney who is responsible for transferring the property from the seller to the buyer. The other attorney is called the bond registration attorney, and that attorney is appointed by the bank. Okay. And a lot of the time, buyers will often ask, why can the seller choose who the transferring attorney is, but I must pay the costs? That's always the case. But it's also because the seller, remember, someone needs to be working with the seller's money. And often that money ranges between 600,000 to $1 million to $2 million to $5 million. It needs to be someone that the seller trusts, number one. Number two, the seller also has the least interest in delaying the transfer. And that's why the seller chooses who the attorney is, because the seller wants to get his property sold. Whereas on the other side of the coin, it might be that you purchased the property and you didn't know that there's transfer costs involved. So what will you need in that circumstance? You're going to need time. You're going to need time to come up with the money. You might need time to come up with a loan. So that's why the seller chooses the conveyancer to make sure that the seller's rights are reserved in that circumstance. Okay. Also, on that note, with taking additional credit instruments, I actually had a client the other day who was buying a property, the transfer is still ongoing. And when she came into our office, she didn't know that she had to pay the transfer and bond costs. And she didn't say she's going to take out, she actually already had taken out a credit card and the bond was approved. And because she needed to pay a deposit, and she had told the agent, no, she's got money to pay the deposit, but we didn't know that she was actually coming with a credit card. And then when she said to me, I'll apply for an extension, like an increased limit on the card, I said to her, no, ma'am, please don't do that. Because it's going to impact your affordability. Because throughout that transfer process, the bank they actually do credit checks. So when we submit to the deeds office, before we submit, the bank will give us a permission to submit to the deeds office. They'll give permission for the bond attorney to proceed. At that point, they will do a credit check. They'll check if you took out any additional loan instruments to buy a card, and you can have a credit card, whatever the case may be. Then again, before the property registers, the bond attorney has to apply to the bank to ask the bank, excuse me, if it's okay for the bond to get registered. Again, the bank will do a credit check. And the same thing applies when you change in jobs. I don't know if you know that, but if you've bought a property and before that bond and that property is registered in your name, if you have applied for a job and you got a job, please don't change your jobs during the transfer process. The bank will pick it up. When I was working at a corporate firm, the bank actually withdrew from the whole transaction. The transfer was in the deeds office, and the buyer had changed jobs. And before we got the permission to register the property, the bank did the credit check and they picked up, because on your transfer, when you report it, will tell you who the employee is. And they picked up that they changed jobs, and the bank withdrew from the whole transaction. Because they didn't know what the income was, they didn't know, could you still afford it, were you fired, were you retrenched, did your salary decrease, did it increase? They can't tell them, but they saw that obviously the employment had changed, so that would naturally affect your affordability. So it doesn't even, not even your credit instruments, it's your life, basically. So if you're going to change jobs, rather change it after the property is registered. But they can see everything. So as much as we try to hide, unfortunately, they can pick it up. And the bank withdrew. So can you imagine all of that expenses, and already been paid, the rates have been paid, certificates of compliance have been paid, the salary spent on the transfer, the buyer will change jobs, it was in the deeds office, and then the bank withdraws. attorney spent money, bond attorney has spent money on the transfer, so don't do it as grave ramifications, and especially if it has the potential for the attorneys to place you in breach of contract, because that's effectively what comes in. You can't come up with the money, so you effectively breach the contract, right? Then also the transfer fees, if you buy over 1.1 million rand, you will pay transfer duty tax to SARS. SARS taxes you in your land, they tax you in your debt, they'll tax you all the way through, right? When you buy a property, they also want a sticky of the pie, they also want to tax you, right? So if you buy for over 1.1 million rand, the transferring attorney's statement of account will also include the tax that you need to pay to SARS. Once you pay us, we will pay the tax over to SARS. Okay? And that works on a sliding scale, depending on the amount that you buy for. So it's 3% and then it's 6%, so they have a really complex calculation as SARS would, right? Then also, you are welcome. So if you are on your journey to buy a property or you're intending to buy a property, you can visit our website. You can literally put my name into Google and our website will come up. And then you can use our calculator and then you can see what you can actually qualify for, what your bond costs or your transfer costs will be so that you can budget for it. Sometimes those 108% or the 105% are actually too little. Sometimes your costs come to 60,000 rand and that extra 8% only comes to 50, then you still have to pay in the 10,000 rand. So don't just bank on the fact that you'll get an extra 5%. Normally what happens is between us as attorneys, so there will be the bond attorney and the transfer attorney, and we will liaise with each other for the transfer. The bond attorney will always make sure their costs are secure first. So let's say, for example, in terms of costs, our costs come to 30,000 rand for the transfer, and the bond attorney's costs, maybe you've chosen FFB, so you've got a discount, it comes to about 17,000 rand. They will make sure that their 17,000 rand is secured first. Then our 30,000 rand, maybe your 5% or your 8% is not enough. Then they'll maybe give us a promise to pay for that balance of our 30, and then what it is left, you have to fork out the pocket. And it's still a lot of money, 15,000 rand, 10,000 rand, 6,000 rand. It's all relative to different people. It can be a lot of money, right? And we're happy to give you a discount, and discount can only assist so much, right? So also normally if you are buying for $1 million and your costs come to about 24,000 rand, normally double that amount. That will be your transfer and your bond cost. So you're looking at about 50,000 rand that you need to have extra. And if that 8%, that 5% is not coming to that amount, then you know you will need to fork out money somewhere else. Okay? And that's where the FLISP program comes into effect. So, just to answer that question that you had earlier on about whether government employees can also qualify for a housing subsidy with the department, yes, they can. So, even if you get an allowance on your salary every month, you can still apply for government housing subsidy because that is a different metric, it's a different criteria that applies. Okay. So, finance-linked individual subsidy program, that's normally what we call FLISP, or what's also now called Help Me Buy a Home, and they're always changing the name. And essentially, it's a government housing subsidy that can assist you in buying a property, and it also assists in those costs that you didn't anticipate you need to cover for the duration of the transfer process. So, essentially, the FLISP program is an initiative, and it's basically there to ensure that the buyer can afford to buy a property, right? The funds can cover your transfer fees, it can cover your bond fees, and you can also pay a deposit if you need a deposit. So, in that circumstance, you need to make sure that your salary is okay with it. And why I say that is because it takes anywhere between 2 months to 3 months to 4 months for a subsidy to be approved, right? Whereas the transfer normally takes, if you recall, I said 6 to 8 weeks. And then what happens is we have to register the property, and then we have to apply for payment with the Department of Human Settlements. And then your seller still has to wait another 2 months for that deposit to come into his account. And you know how it is when an attorney is sitting with your money. It's not a nice feeling, right? You maybe sold for R1 million, 900,000 rand has come from the buyer's bond, and another 100,000 rand comes from the subsidy. What are you going to do? You have nothing. You transfer that property onto the buyer's name, you have no leverage. All you have is that trust relationship with your attorney that they will pay over that 100,000 rand. And because you weren't involved in that process as the seller, you're not feeling comfortable because did the attorney ask for the money to be paid? Why is it taking so long? We go through this on a daily basis. Clients will phone us, why is it taking so long? We don't understand, did you request payment? Client will come to our office, no appointment, they'll ask us to show proof that we requested payment. And often on the date of transfer, we will request payment. It's the department that unfortunately, because of the volume of the work that they're dealing with, it does take long to pay out. So if you are dealing with a situation where the bank, according to your affordability, can only give you 90% or 80%, and you know that based on the income bracket, you can qualify for a subsidy or housing assistance, and it needs a deposit, you first need to ask that estate agent to ask the seller if they're okay with it. Because that seller is only going to get that 10% in 2 months after the transfer, sometimes 3 months after the transfer. And if it's financial year in full government, it's 6 months after February. Right? So you just need to ensure that the seller is actually comfortable with that. It's a nice thing to have because it alleviates the buyer of that burden of having to come up with the money, but you also put your seller in a different financial position as well. Then in terms of the requirements for what you need to prove in order to qualify for your FLIS or your housing subsidy, you must have a loan that's approved, right? There are different requirements for cash. There's a different threshold for cash. And if you are buying a property cash, normally the amount is capped at 200,000 rand. And then also, so you can buy a property of 200,000 rand cash, but then you're going to need to come up with the costs. Or you can buy for under 200,000 rand cash. So basically, the government will give you a full subsidy for 200,000 rand. But then you need to make sure that you have costs out of pocket, or you can buy for less than 200,000 rand, and your costs are still going to be covered under that subsidy, right? You must also be a first-time home buyer, right? So if you've owned any other property before, you can't qualify. We can also see historically if you've owned any other properties. So let's say you've sold the property, unfortunately you've sold it off, or whatever the case may be, you can still pick up that historically you've owned a property, and the application will unfortunately be declined. Yes. Yeah. Yeah.
And I was working and now I'm
No, you can't. So her question was, if she's married out of community of property with accrual or just out of community of property, and she owns a property by herself and her husband wants to apply for FLIS, we can't. Because it's the gross household income. Then you take this husband and the wife together, or the sister and the brother together, whatever the case may be, it's your household income. So naturally, if you marry someone who already owns a property, you will automatically lose your right to apply for subsidy. Okay, another thing you must not take into account before you get married. Then also your total household income must be between 3,500 and 22,000 rand. Okay, so even if you are self-employed, you're going to have to draw a salary from your business to show that you either earn anywhere between 3,500 and 22,000 rand. Okay, because if your business's income is more than that, they can actually decline your application. So it's better for you to say, yes, I own this business, but this is my monthly salary, and they can exercise the discretion or will not to get onto the application. And I asked that question earlier, and I just thought it's better that I just answer it as well. You must be a South African citizen, and if you are single, you must have a dependent living with you. So that can be your child, it can be your grandchild as well. It can be your parent, it can be your grandparent. Those are the defined classes of dependents that have to be living with you. So someone actually needs to live with you if you're not married, or you're not in a partnership, or you're not married according to Muslim rights, whatever the case may be. you need to have a dependent with you in your life. Okay, and you normally make an affidavit at the police station to say that you have a dependent who is living with you, and that will obviously help with the qualification criteria as well. Then also remember I said that you need to have an approved loan in order to qualify. It doesn't need to be from a bank. Sometimes your employer will allow you to loan from your provident fund or your pension fund. You can also use that to qualify for your housing subsidy. If you are a membership of a stokvel, then all clients who I've dealt with, where they pull all the money together and they buy a piece of land and then later on they cut it up. And they do that on the basis of a stokvel. So each month they put money into it. So if you buy property through a stokvel, you can also qualify for this subsidy. Then also if you are a member of the government employees housing scheme, or if your employer has any other housing allowance it gives you. So say if you make 1,000 rand towards your housing allowance, regardless, they don't look at that, you still qualify whether or not you're a government employee. You can also use an unsecured loan. So if the bank's making an offer on your app that you see the liquor 200,000 rand, or it's an unsecured loan, you can take the unsecured loan, and then if you can buy a property within that price bracket, they can also give you money towards that, so either they'll cover your bond or they'll cover your transfer costs. Or if you buy, let's say the loan is 200,000, but you want to buy a property of 300,000, you can apply for your subsidy because then they can give you that extra 100,000 rand if you qualify to make up the price. And anything that's left over, they'll give towards the cost, or they'll pay it if you take in an actual loan account, they can pay it into the loan account as well. Then also, an entirely different topic, but if you buy a property by an installment sale agreement or rent to buy, that is an entirely different process. But if you are buying by an installment sale agreement or rent to buy agreement, you can also qualify for the subsidy. However, you can only qualify for the subsidy once you settle the purchase price. Okay, alternatively, you can apply before the time, but it has to then be towards a deposit, and then the balance you pay with as a rent to buy. Okay. What can you do with your subsidy? So you can either buy a new house, so in a new development, or you can buy an apartment into those new developments that go up. You can buy there, or you can buy an existing, what we call second-hand. You can buy a second-hand property as well. You can buy a vacant residential service land. So if it's a vacant plot, but it is connected to the municipality, maybe it's been serviced with water and electricity, you can use your subsidy for that. However, you need to also have a building contract in place with a builder, and that building needs to be registered with an NHBRC, which is a builder's insurance, basically to say that they are a proper and bona fide building company. And should they do anything that's illegal or the compromises the structural integrity of your property, the NHBRC can pay out for that. And then also you can build, if you already own a plot and you've taken transfer of that plot within 6 months of the transfer, you can still apply for your subsidy. Okay, so even if you've now recently bought a house and it's 6 months since it's before 6 months that you've now owned that property, you can still apply for your housing subsidy. What will happen is that whatever amount you qualify for, they will pay it into your loan account, your home loan account, with your bank, and it will effectively reduce your interest that you pay to the bank. Okay, so that's it from me. If there's any other questions, you're welcome to ask. Did I answer everyone's questions that they had? Okay. I am academic with you, so if you do have anything else, any other areas of the law that you want to discuss with me, you're welcome to. But yeah, thank you so much.
Okay, thank you, Musina, for that. Very informative. So Nicole was like,
I said it is time she can share. There's something very important she forgot. That she would like to make everybody aware of, that is the owner's office as well.
Okay. Transfer system. So our colleagues, we granted 5 and 8% to cover the earning fees. We will do a little bit differently. We give you 90% off, so we give you the full purchase price. And next to that, we give you holders personal loan for the fees. The maximum amount is 100,000. What happens is, if hypothetically your fees is only 60,000, you can actually pay the 400,000, but it's going to put it and you could then use the 60 for the fees, you can use the 45 for the innovations. The difference there as well is that the personal loan that you're taking for the attorney fees, that loan is going to be over 3 to 5 years. So you only pay interest over 3 to 5 years, as opposed to 5% or 8%, which is over your 3 years of your term. So a lot of times that does work out cheaper. There are times where it doesn't. Happy to be more calculated and I'll tell you which one is financially feasible. But that is a transfer process, and it's a personal loan next to your home loan, which can be completed in 3 years. And you don't even have it's deposited to you. So you get the money, you can use it either for your fees, you can use it for a deposit, or you use it for furniture, and you don't end up in that position where they with the new credit check or have your furniture. So
Thank you, Nicole. Wait.
I was going to ask, what is the interest you can apply?
Look, it's going to be in line with the personal loans at the bank. I only deal with owners. We are SA owners, so we put owners in our name. So it's probably going to be, I think the personal loan is 16-17%. But again, because the term is so much shorter, even though that interest rate is going to be higher than your home loan rate, it works out less interest over time.
Very good question there. Thank you, Nicole. So there was a lot to take in this morning, and we heard from all the bank consultants. Everybody has something different to offer. Everybody has a unique offering, and the banks all do believe that their offering is the best for the client. So it's really important that you do your homework. What we recommend to clients is, often clients will say, I want to go to my own bank. I've been banking with them for 12 years. I've been banking with them for so many years. I want to have my home loan with my own bank. Let me tell you, it's most likely your own bank is going to give you the worst interest rate because the other banks is trying to get you to bring your business over. So it's important to shop around. It's important to get quotations from different banks and even from SA home loans. And it's important to ask those questions like, what are the interest rates? When you get your offer for your home loan, don't just look at what the monthly installment is going to be. They give you these days what we call a quotation. You've got 5 days to accept that quotation. So really take the time to check, okay, this is my monthly installment, but compare. What is the interest rate like? What is the term like? Is it 20 years? Is it 25 years? Is it 30 years? So yes, maybe the one bank is giving you a lower monthly installment and you'll have some extra cash flow, but you're paying an additional 5 years. So always look at the end of the loan term, what is the final amount that I'm actually paying back? We look at monthly cash flow because we still want to have a little bit of money there for entertainment or to live comfortably. But do you still want to be 65 or 70 and paying off your home loan, right? So always look at the term and see how beneficial it's going to be for you. And it's not a one size fits all. You know, it's really based on your household, it's based on your financial situation, and it's based on what you as a family or as a unit can afford. Even if you are single, you need to look at what your future plans are, and does this align with my future plans? So we'll often say that property is a good investment, and yes, it's better to purchase your own property rather than pay rent to somebody else. But is the timing right for you? You need to look at that. Maybe you need a year to rent so that you can save up for your deposit, so you can get comfortable with paying that amount out of your budget on a monthly basis. So look at so that you can take on the responsibility of paying utilities and paying AET and paying other expenses. So look at your own financial situation, look at your budget and see, are you ready to make the commitment to rent or to buy? What works for you? And if you have to wait a year or two to buy, then maybe it will be better to do so to prevent you from being under financial pressure when you do make the commitment to buy. When we do buy, like I said, Meraki does a home loan application. We've got a generic form. So you fill in the form once, you provide all your supporting documents, and then we submit it to all those guys that were standing here on stage. So all of them will have a check. When you do checks with the bank, it won't show, for the home loan, it won't show on your inquiry. So there won't be that negative impact on there. So they will come back with the offer. So if the Standard Bank will offer their 108%, FNB will offer their 50% discount. And we will put it in a summary and table it and look at interest rates, monthly installment, costs involved, are there any conditions? And then based on that, we will be able to get an idea where the best offer is coming from. Like you heard from Shamil, they're never going to lose a deal on interest rate. So if we go to Standard Bank and we say, look, my client is banking with you, they got a better offer from another bank, will you match this? Then they will look at how they can match that interest rate. So never just accept the first offer that you're getting. Never just accept what your bank is giving you. It's good to have comparative quotes. It's good to shop around, and then it's good to see what is going to work for you in your financial situation. Okay. Any questions? Okay. So this is week 2 of the roadshow. Next week, it will be a little bit different. Next week, we will be at the Athlone AFM Church in Athlone. The topic next week will be about career planning. So maybe you've had interest in becoming an estate agent, or you've had an interest in becoming a financial service provider, or even an attorney. I will be speaking on the qualification process to become an estate agent and how to enter the industry. Musina will be speaking on how to become an attorney and get into that industry. And then Chantal of Trinity Financial Planning will be speaking about how to become a financial service provider and what steps to take. So booking is on Quicket as well. Time frame will be the same. And next week we will have on board some consulting services. We'll have on BBC Business Breakfast Club will be with us, and there will be different also exhibitors available that will be speaking or available or in the line of career planning. So we're going to close now. The consultants will all be at their tables. You are welcome to go chat with them. You're welcome to go make, if it's something you don't want to discuss now and you want to book a consultation with them, feel free to do so. You are not tied into anything or obligated by giving in your name or speaking with anybody. They are here to assist you. There is still coffee and refreshments available. So even though the seminar is closing now, the church will be open until 1 o'clock. So please do make use of everybody that's available. Thank you so much for attending and thank you for supporting.
Sorry.